Having been in China for some time, I wanted to make a video in relationship to ExpressVPN. This will not be a speed test, it will not be an evaluation, it will not be a comparison with other VPNs. It is just simply my experience since I have been in China. Before coming to China, I undertook an extensive search on the internet in relationship to the best VPN to use within China. I contacted the help desk in relationship to ExpressVPN, and they assured me that it did work in China and also that Netflix worked within China. I also did some research in relationship to how to install the software, and I found that ExpressVPN installation was one of the easiest. I went ahead and installed it on my laptop, which runs Linux Mint, which is a Linux distribution, and also on my Android phone. Both installations were very straightforward and easy to use. I initially ran some tests while back at home and found that it worked extremely well. The speed loss in relationship to using the ExpressVPN was very little, and overall I was very happy when back home in relationship to its performance. On first arriving in China, I started using ExpressVPN and found it reasonably good. It was quite fast, and I didn't find it too difficult to to be able to connect to the different countries available. But over time the performance has deteriorated very significantly. I find it now quite difficult to be able to connect to any country. I often find that I have to switch from one country to another country, just trying to get any form of connection. The speed is also quite poor at the moment. I do realize that this may not be entirely the fault of ExpressVPN, and that the Chinese government is trying to stop the use of VPNs. But overall, the performance hasn't been very good recently on both the Android phone and also the laptop. One of the issues that came up was after a few weeks I had been here, my Android phone told me that it needed to update the application, and it started to do that without me asking it to do anything. And because of that, it just continuously tried to update and keep saying that it wasn't able to update it. And so I lost the use of my Android phone entirely in relationship to a VPN. Fortunately, I had a laptop with me, and I was able to contact the advanced ExpressVPN help desk, and in about, probably it must have taken at least an hour and a half, the problem was able to be resolved. Because of not being able to connect to the VPN through the Android phone, I had to download a program from here in China and reinstall that program. After reinstalling and a lot of fiddling around, the Android phone started working again. But the very next day, the same problem arose again. I had to contact the help desk again, and this time it must have been at least 2 hours. It involved completely removing the original program and reinstalling the new program. The trouble, of course, was that I then had to enter my codes so that I could use the program, and again, because I was not able to use the VPN, I wasn't able to connect to their server to be able to verify my membership, and so that caused quite a lot of problems. In the end, they gave me a static IP address, and I was able to register the phone again. That continued to work for the rest of that day. The next day it stopped working, but I simply turned off the static IP address the following day, and since then I've had no problems with it. I have tried to use the VPN with Netflix, a complete disaster. Basically, the speed is so slow, and then it comes up from Netflix saying that I'm using a VPN and that I should turn it off. I find this particularly frustrating because I pay a full subscription to Netflix, and I'm unable to use it outside of the country. And I have been researching alternatives to Netflix, and when I return home I probably will cancel Netflix because it just limits what you can do with it, where you can watch it, and all of those sorts of issues. I have not tried to use another VPN. There were several which were recommended. There's one particular from Hong Kong which had a high recommendation, but the installation process was much more complex. In time I probably will have to try some other alternatives. One of the recommendations that was given before I left for China was to have at least 2 installed VPNs, so that if one had a problem you were able to switch to the other. I do find that switching the Android phone off and the laptop for a period of time does tend to help, and I seem to be able to connect to various countries easier once they've been turned off for a period of time. Overall, I would rate the installation as 10 out of 10. Performance, probably about 2 out of 10. And help, probably about 7 out of 10. That's a little low because the people I spoke to on several occasions seemed to have no idea what to do. Although I, from the very beginning, said I was in China, they seem to have little idea of the complexities of connecting from China. Would I purchase again? I probably would purchase 2 VPNs before leaving my country of origin, and then within China try and decide which one was the best. I don't think I will renew my subscription for ExpressVPN, and I'll go to elsewhere.